So, we had done the sixth sutra of the second chapter. This is Saktopaya. So, there is a mixture of Bhedatmaka thing and Abhedatmaka thing. And we had a long discussion and introduction, so I don't want to revisit the whole thing. And we also had a discussion on what is that Khechari Mudra di Shivavasa. It is not a physical or psychophysical manipulation of your system to attain that stage of some kind of an experience of tasting nectar as they do in some yogic practices, but it is in fact that contemplative mode in which you are being able to realize your non-differentiated nature, which is not different from the Paramashiva Tattva. That is the Khechari Mudra, that is that Samya Avastha, Samya Rasha that you experience. And we had a lot of discussion, and then we said how to reach there, Guru Rupayaha. You need to get hold of the guy, a preceptor, who gives us proper guidance. And there are different kinds of gurus. We have Jnani gurus. Right now we are doing satsang. But very honestly, in the Kashmiri Saivism tradition, these online classes are held, but generally they do a few retreats because it's not just about theory, it's also about practice. So, as I had mentioned to you in the last satsang that we had, that you have the Jnani Guru and the Sadguru. You remember the beautiful 4 books written by Swami Nigamananda Saraswati. One is called, Yogi Guru. The other one is called Jnani Guru. And then one is called Premika Guru. And the final one is called Tantrika Guru. All 4 books are there. But there's a book called Jnani Guru in which he's discussing the nature of the Atman and all, mostly a Vedantic discussion, how to clean up our minds at a conceptual level. But if we want actually some transformation, we have to add certain practices. As per the Vedanta tradition, one is supposed to have taken care of all this. Premika Guru is basically Bhakti Yoga, and Yogi Guru is different kind of practices he mentions there. But you're supposed to have done all this and you're a Kritopasi, then you go and do your Shravana Manan and Nididhyasana. But in Ramanuja Parampara, there is something called Jnanotara Bhakti. You have Jnana, you know the person, then you love him more, you love her more. So to love God, you need to understand God. As in Christianity also the same thing is mentioned. But in Advaita Vedanta, they believe that this is more of vichara ultimately. So these traditions have their slight differences. Those who are very intellectually inclined, who are absolutely not emotional in their orientation, would be very comfortable with Vedanta. There could be an element of intellectual dryness because a lot of things do not seem to happen in your everyday life because you are studying Vedanta. So therefore, this Kashmiri Saivism is a transformative, contemplative practice, but aimed at creating transformation in you. Therefore, they're talking about the different kinds of gurus that we discussed in the last class, but mostly you have this Kalpita and Akalpita and all that. The one who goes and learns, the one who knows but goes to conform. He already has a few experiences and siddhis. And then at the end, you have this Jnani Guru and a Sadguru. So Thakur Ramakrishna Paramahansa is the best example of a Sadguru. And then in later days, you can you may look at people like Shivananda Saraswati, for example, who is a kind of a guru of gurus. He produced quite a few gurus. He knew how to guide them. You had Ramana Maharshi. And then, but Sri Aurobindo was a Jnani Guru, but he didn't individually, he did guide his own followers, but he says, I'm no one's guru, because he was more some sort of an incarnation. But if you look at in Ramakrishna Parampara, a lot of great masters in the tradition did a lot of hand-holding in helping people transform their lives, and they are called Sadgurus, who actually not only tells you where to go, how to go, but it tells you how to walk there. He holds your hand and gives you some experiences. And then we have discussed about different kinds of dikshas. What is Saktipata? There is Jnanadana, and then Pasuvasana Kshaya. So Dana and Khyapana, two things we discussed. Khyapana is what? Removal of obstacles, removal of old sanskaras is very critical for your ascension to the next higher level. So God gives us a few privileges, but those privileges will not give us the best results unless we are in a position to remove the obstacles which are changing us from our previous sanskaras, previous practices and habits. Having said all that, we have this discussion. Do you know, okay, now you have a guru, but how does the guru help you? That would be very important, because he is a bit of back and forth. He mentions that you can be in that Khechari Mudra, you need the help of a guru, and then now you have a guru. They first mention you the product, in that particular state of perfect equanimity with divine grace, where you are in a state of non difference vis a vis the absolute consciousness. Having mentioned that, again and again they mention, then they start from below, because we are at a position much below, then we have to start our journey. In the seventh sutra, therefore, he's saying, once we have a guru, what kind of sadhana we have to do? This chapter all about is Sakta Upaya. These are meditations. These are meditations, but not like the Sambhopaya, which are very philosophical, very conceptual. This one also has a lot of concepts, but there are a few details on which you meditate here. For example, so you have mantra, meditation on the mantra. It starts with Chitta mantra. So there are certain details which are given. So some of the details which are given, now we're going to meditate on some of these details today. How do we do yoga to go to that original state of equanimity, which is Ashwarupa? That's what he's saying. Matrika Chakra Sambodhaha. Matrika Chakra Sambodhaha. So very briefly, in a very few words, what he's trying to say is that if you want to go to Khechari Mudra, you need to find a guru. But do you know what kind of things you have to do? You have to Sakti Chakra Sandhane Vishwa Sangharaha. Remember that sutra in the first chapter. So he's kind of repeating it, giving it a little more detail here. He had mentioned that earlier when he mentioned Jnanam Bandha. Jnana is born out of what? Alphabets. So there is a whole mysterious science of alphabets. We hadn't gone deep into that, but we will go a little more deeper than we had gone earlier. We have tossed upon them and we'll think a little more about them, because many of you are asking questions. What is this mantra? How to meditate on it? So these are the interesting details that he's going to mention. Remember, these mantras are made out of alphabets. So we have to have some understanding of this whole letters, these 50 letters that we are there. So he's saying that unless you actually have comprehensive or fuller understanding of this Matrika Chakra, it's not like any yantra or something, right? You have like this Kali yantra and Sri yantra and all. They are not talking about that. Even though these are not completely away from it, you also have one Matrika there. Every yantra have a lot of letters written on that, Bija mantras. So in order to understand all those secrets, you have to start here. So the yogi, the aspirant who wants to ascend and establish himself at a higher plane, has to start with an adequate understanding of the Matrika Chakra. And he has to have Sambodha, Samyak Bodha. He has to have a fairly good understanding of it. What is it understanding? Of course, you need the help of the guru. But what is this understanding all about? Let's delve a little deeper into it. Ultimately, they are saying that this Sambodha, even though you're going to discuss alphabets, it doesn't start and end there. Because earlier they have mentioned the person who looks at mantras as tools for some siddhis, he is actually kind of stuck in a dreamy world, because there is no real transformation in him. He will get some siddhis, and these are delusional. Because the ultimate goal of our life is to have that Atma Jnana, to have that self-realization. So mantra sadhana is important, but if you're doing mantra sadhana for these small gains, it's very funny. Hmm? So you are spending dollars to make pennies. Spending dollars to make pennies. It's like that. Therefore, he's saying, so what is that Samyak Bodha? Where it is going to take us? They are mentioning the Tikakara saying, Aham Sarvam, Aham Eva Idam Sarvam. That is the goal. I am verily this. You remember earlier they had mentioned Sariram Vishwam Vishwam Sarira. So the I am this world and this world is me. So you see the whole universe in you, and then when you are Sariram Drishyam Drishyam Sariram. So when you see this whole Sariram Drishyam, Drishyam Sariram, Drishya is this whole Jagata, and that is part of you because you are Sarvatmaka. You are no different from the Paramashiva Tattva. So you see your presence everywhere. That is the ultimate Sarvam Vasudeva Miti, and you are not different from Vasudeva. That is the ultimate thing. Then he says, Drishyam Sariram. Why is he saying Drishyam Sariram? The purpose of saying Drishyam Sariram is that in that transcendental state of meditation, you are also being able to see, here this boy is sitting and meditating. So you also see all that is happening. Guna gunesu vartanta iti matvana sajjate. Bhagavad Gita Bhagavan said. So you can see the whole psychophysical machine at work. All those things are happening. You might get a little angry, but you would be able to see everything in and out. So Sariram Drishyam, Drishyam Sariram. He has mentioned that. That is being reformed and mentioned in a more unifying way, saying Aham Eva Idam Sarvam. That is Drishyam Sariram. All that I see is part of me. Aham Eva Idam Sarvam. All that I see is verily me. So that is the Shruti thing. So Aham Eva Adhastat, Aham Uparishtat, Aham Paschat, Aham Purastat, Aham Dakshinota, Aham Uttaratah. So you see everywhere. You see you are above, you are below, you are on your right side, you are on your left side, you are in your front and in your back. You are Sarva Vyapaka because you are realizing your unity with Paramashiva. To reach there, we have to do these details. So now the first word, what did you say? Aham Eva Idam Sarvam. Aham Idam. That is the trick in, in Advaita Vedanta. Please remember this minor difference. Advaita Vedanta emphasizes on Anidam Chaitanyam. Idam Taya. Whatever appears as this is not Atma. These are all Anatma. I am seeing them. The one who sees is real. All the things that I see are not real. What I see is not real. The one who sees is real. That is simple Advaita Vedanta trick. Drig Drishya Viveka. Drig Chaitanya is real. Drishya, that is Anatma. Jada, that is not Chaitanya. So our own Ahankara, our Buddhi and everything is different from the self. That is what we have already understood in Viveka Chudamani and Bhagavad Gita and all. Returning to our discussion here, Aham Idam, the trick differs because he's saying you and Idam, Aham and Idam are not different. Why? This manifestation has no real meaning. It is false in Advaita Vedanta. It's like a dream. It's just a projection, like on a hologram. Kashmiri Saivism clarifies, look, this whole Srishti is not a joke. It's real. It's manifest reality, manifested by God. It's manifestation of God's power, God's Shakti. And there is a science behind it. If you understand it, you don't have to reject the samsara as a joke and then go and sit and find liberation. So be it if you think that's good for you and it works for you. But we have a different perspective. That is what the Kashmiri Saivite tells you. And what does he say? He's saying, your problem is because you are caught up in the duality between you and this whole universe. It's possible for you to have a realization where you can see yourself as the universe. If you connect with the Supreme Lord who creates this universe, then the Supreme Lord has manifested this universe, and then you can see your presence everywhere via the idea that you are no different from the Supreme Lord, and you are doing the upasana and everything, and you are also his product, and it's that pure consciousness. So aham eva idam. Aham and idam both, which are contrarian in Advaita Vedanta, here he's saying ultimately there's no difficulty in uniting them. Remember this point. Once you have understood this particular difference vis-a-vis Advaita Vedanta, then they will explain, because you are going to ask this question, what is the meaning of aham? In Advaita Vedanta, aham, pure aham is the Brahma thing, the Shakti Chaitanya, but aham purushaha, aham balokaham, brahmanoham, all these are identifications. These are adhyaropa. You're superimposing these identities on your pure consciousness. Aham sukhi, aham dukhi, all that. But aham, that particular consciousness is actually about the self. And then the moment you add some predicate, it is trapped in falsehood. It's trapped in some kind of a limitation. That is what is Advaita Vedanta. So we have to liberate the aham from ahamkara. Liberate it. So see through the ahankara and see the pure consciousness. These people have a different theory. They have a different science starting with this aham. They are actually not saying that there is pure consciousness and aham. This is all fine. Because of Maya, we are trapped. They also say the same thing. But there is a different science behind this sadhana marga. Starting with some kind of a meditation on the word aham. So they say, do you know why you are the world? How come I am the world? I'm sitting here. Look at the beautiful interpretation they have. They're saying aham means what? A and ha, then you have that shunya, which creates a kind of a marriage between a and ha. A, even akaraha shiva ityuktas, thakaraha sakti ruchyate, Somananda has said. So akara here, in Bhagavad Gita also, Bhagavan says that among varnas, among alphabets, I am akara. Because everything begins, he is the Adya Varna. Everything starts with A. So A and her, just imagine it's the Vimarsha Shakti, and A is that Shiva Tattva. All that you see in this whole universe has to be described with alphabets. And these alphabets start with A and end with A. Clear? Starts with A, and you tell any word: car, house, money, marriage, sannyasa, vijnana, Vedanta. Whatever word you say can be captured within A and Ha. Sha is actually Ka and Murdhanya Sha. So these are Yuktaksharas. So between A and, therefore he's saying, when we say Aham, we are capturing the whole prapancha or the whole universe. The manifest and the unmanifest, all the universes are captured, A and Ha. So Aham idam, I am this. When you say Aham, one is Aham referring to yourself, and the other Aham refers to this whole universe. Because this whole prapancha, this whole creation is captured within that alphabet A and Ha. Look at this whole mystery into it. A very mystical interpretation. There's a lot of, you'd be surprised that each letter, when you look at that, each letter has a lot of symbolic meaning and a power. It's not a very secular science. So if you read Sanskrit grammar, they'll tell you. So they have Maheshwara Sutras, A little of Sanskrit grammar is also very enlightening. Interestingly, the Maheshwara Sutras and whatever you read, they don't say O, A, E, they don't define like that. So the Maheshwara Sutras, there are 14 sutras. Nanada Dhakka Navapanchavaram. Nittavasane Nataraja Rajo, Lord Shiva, after the dance, after the creation, he starts playing his damuru. Navapanchavaram. Why? Uddhatu Kamaha Sanakadi Siddhan. All these Maharshi, Sanaka and all, in order to liberate them. Etad Vimarshe Siva Sutra Dalam. He created these Maheshwara Sutras. And they are like very simple. A, I, Una. So these are series. A, I, U, Na is It Sangyak. It becomes silent. So they are simple vowels. A, I, U, R, L, Ruk. E, Ong, I, Auch, Haya, Varat, Lana. Yamagananam, Javai, Gadadas, Javagadadas, Kafa Chatata, Chatatau, Kapai, Sasasara, Hal. Starting with when you say Hal, Haya Varata, Ha se chalu hota hai. So, all these Vyanjana Varnas, consonants, are Hal Varnas. Ach, starting with I, U, Ru, Ru, A, O, I, Ouch. So, these are all Swara Varnas. Then A, I, O, these are kind of mixed vowels. Simple vowels, A, I, U, Ru, Ru. And then what? You have Ha, Ya, Va, Ra, La. Ha, Ya, Va, Rat, Lana. These are antastas. And then they have a whole phonetic science. Which particular varna emanates from which part of your, this machine you have to vocalize anything. Akuha visarjanyanam kantaha. So they will tell you. A and ku varga. Ku means ka, kha, ga, gha, nga. And ha. If you do the ucharanam, a, ka, kha, ga, they are coming out of the throat. So they categorize all these letters according to from where they are emanating and what kind of prayatna you are doing, what kind of vyapara you are doing to be able to pronounce them. That is Panini grammar. Litu lasanam dantaha ichu asanam, talu, ritu rashanam murdha, ra, ta, tha, da, dhana, sha, murdha, roof, and hard pellet. All these they will mention. Good, no problem. Osta, pa, fa. So that comes out of your lips. Then there are different kind of prayatnas. Here, the science is completely different. That is one science, the science of grammar and language. But here, this language is not about how words are pronounced. They are about the mystical power behind alphabets. And if we know the secret signs of the alphabets, according to this Kashmiri Tantra, when we do ucharanam of different mantras, we would be careful what mantra can produce anything. Just imagine you go to the sea beach, say in Gopalpur. Do you know that there is uranium and plutonium there? No, you don't know. But yes, scientists go and they collect the sand and so you have this Indian Rare Earths Limited because they're extracting some radioactive material. I mean, having some capacity for radioactivity. So what is sand for you is uranium or plutonium for somebody else. So what is a simple alphabet for a grammarian is a powerhouse of a lot of energy, Shakti, for the expert in these Varna Matrikas. That is why they are saying that you have Matrika Chakra Sambodhaha. You understand it. Then when you are doing mantras, you know the secret behind these mantras. So you are in a clear position. Why am I doing it? What am I going to achieve? Where is it going to take me? So that is what they are discussing. So what he says, aham. And from A to Ha, that captures this whole Sampurna Prapanch, and that Prapanch means all this manifest reality or Shukshma and Sthula, and that is no different from the Aham Shurupa. It's essentially an expansive expression or manifestation of that Aham, A and Ha, which is yourself. That is the thing. Now, there is a sentence. Athadyas tithaya sarveshwara bindu avasanugaha. So, this bindu word we have heard earlier also, the Paramashiva Tattva. So, there is some sort of a imagination as to how this whole sansara now is created. That Aham Tattva, that Paramashiva Tattva ultimately has become this whole universe. Aham and Idam are no different. Idam has emerged out of that Paramashiva Tattva. So you have A is Shiva Tattva, A is the Ananda Tattva, that bliss, And you have ha, tha is the Sakti. Akaraha Shiva ityuktas, thakaraha Sakti ruchyate. So atha, when you say in atha in Sanskrit, atha and onkara, they are a mangala vachaka. Athatu Brahma Jigyasa. This is the first sutra in the Brahma Sutras. Athato Dharma Jigyasa is in the Mimamsa Sutras or the Purva Mimamsa. So atha is Mangala Suchaka. So that is actually like a Mangala Charana you do. That atha Sabda itself is powerful. But here atha is Shiva and Shakti. This whole creation happens because that atha. Therefore, it happens. Therefore, he is mentioning what? Aham ityekam advaitam. Aham iti ekam advaitam yat prakasatma vibhramaha. And then this whole thing, which is self-exuberant, it manifests itself. Akaraha sarva varnagriyaha. Akara is in front of all the alphabets. It's the first alphabet. Prakashaha parama shivaha. That akara is parama shiva rupa. Hakaranto kalarupa bimasakhya prakirtitaha. Ha. Anahata chakra. Ha, when you say it comes out of your heart, from your heart. Hridaya chakra. So kalarupa, that is the kalarupa. Bimasakhya, bimarsha. That is the meditation. We have discussed that earlier. That bimarsha shakti. How this whole universe happens. It's because of the bimarsha shakti. God has to be aware of his own existence, then the world happens. So without consciousness, so like Shakti, Parvati, he's the consciousness of Lord Shiva. That's what it's not like that Prakriti or Maya in Sankhya or the traditional Vedanta where it is Jada Rupa, Maya is Jada Rupa. No, here it's Chinmaya Shakti. It's no different from that Shiva Chaitanyatmaka Rupa. These are two ways to look at the whole same one consciousness. Vimarshakhya prakirtitaha anayoho samarashyam, between this a and ha, samarashyam, yat parasmin ahami sputam. So when you say aham idam, so that is the paramatatva, and that what manifests, blossoms is this whole universe. And Bhagavan also says in Bhagavad Gita, aksharanam akarosmi, I am akara. There are different texts. I'll just touch upon different texts because they all are trying to drive home, and it's very interesting. We will go into the difficult parts, but let's make entry into this whole science because it's a little challenging. So what he's trying to say, so if you look at Virupachya Panchashika, this is another substantive text. So what are they saying? That what is the whole sansara about? Swa and para. I and everything other than I. Together, this whole sansara is created. And then this particular thing, that the moment you open your eyes, there was this German philosopher, suddenly it comes to my mind because there's a relevance to why I'm mentioning his name. He's called Heidegger. He wrote that very famous book called Being and Time. Very controversial because he is supposed to have supported the Nazis. But that apart, he was one of the greatest philosophers and can't be ignored. So what he says is that there is nothing called reality, because the moment you open your eyes, the moment you wake up and you get into life, you are actually relating to something immediate, something relatable, something personal to you. Today, as we are talking, there's so many things happening in the world. There's a war, maybe some bombs were dropped a few seconds earlier, maybe there's some kind of a landslide in the upper Himalayas, maybe there is heavy rain in some corner, and maybe some minor accident, maybe there's a party going on, people are recovering from that gala, super conspicuous marriage of the Ambanis. So there are different realities everywhere. What is our reality is what matters to us. Now, this, what we describe as our reality, is essentially a relationship between I and what I relate to around me. Whatever I relate to around me is that which I'm relating to or connecting with. That's my reality. And if you look at that, it is essentially Swa and Paraprakasha. I and what I see and what I relate to. And then that is Aham. I and this Aham, Prapachatmaka Vishwa. And I'm related. Aham Idam. I am here. This is the reality in which I am finding myself. Saying Swapara Avabhasana Kshama Atma Vishwasya Yaha Prakasasau Ahamiti Sa Eka Ukta Ahanta Stiti Ridrishi Tasya. Oh, this is a very beautiful thing. So he's saying Swapara Avabhasana Kshama, which lightens up the self and the other, this whole reality. Atma Vishwasya Yaha Prakasa Asau. So that particular, that consciousness, which lights up everything, including you and the reality around you, aham iti, and I'm this. So eka ukto ahanta, that ahanta rupa, paripurna, that fuller consciousness, self-awareness, ahanta rupa, stitihi idrishi tasya. What is he trying to say is that when we are trapped in Maya, we do not have the Sarvatmaka Bhava or all encompassing identification with the supreme consciousness which has manifested this reality. So, if we go back to Sri Aurobindo's commentary on Ishavasya Upanishad, he says a very interesting, in a way, he says, look here, my boy, there is something called a separative ego, and that is the problem. Because you have that limited separative ego. I want a house, my son wants to do this, my daughter wants to do this, my wife is having this problem, I need to solve that. That is the separative ego. And then you have problems in the workplace, in the market, everywhere. But he's saying if you are being able to identify with that great ego in the light of the divine grace through which this whole universe has manifested, the conflicts, the differences, the troubles that we have to visit every day on a daily basis without any respite, perhaps would not trouble us as much, because then we are here and as well as connected with the transcendent reality. What he mentions is in separate words in a different context. He's saying Swapara Avabhasana Kshama Atma Vishwasya Yaha Prakasha Asau. That Atma Aham iti sa eka ukta ahangta sthiti idrishi tasya. Of that guy who is so self-realized. So aham idam sarvam. He has that sort of a realization. Similarly, there is another text Kal Varivasya Rahasyam, and then he's saying, what is this Siva and Shakti? You see, they are saying and Ha, how they are so powerful. Ahakarau Shiva Sakti Sunyakarau Parasvara Slistau Spurana Prakasa Rupau Upanishad Uktam Param Brahma Ahakarau Akara Hakara. Together, Dvanda Samasa, Ahakaro, Akara, Ukara, Akarasya, Ukarasya, Ahakaro, together. And Ha. And what are they? Shiva Sakti. They together represent Shiva and Sakti. Sunyakaro. And then Sunyakaro. It's very interesting they're mentioning. Sunyakaro. They don't have any physical thing. They're all pervading. Sunyakaro. Parasvara Slisto, and then they are Parasvara Aslisto, and her. See, her even Ucharana cannot be there without So any Vyanjana Varna cannot be pronounced without the help of a Swara Varna. So you always have the Shiva and Shakti, all the Vyanjana Varnas will go there. That is also coming. Airavas. So Spurana Prakasha Rupau Upanishad Uktam, that is what is mentioned, Spurana Prakasa, that Atma, Param Brahma, that is what is Param Brahma. So, in order to create this whole samsara, Sisriksha, the desire to do Srishti, then when Brahma, and he's saying that Param Brahma, that supreme consciousness, when it looks at that Shakti that it has, unlike in Advaita Vedanta, where Param Brahma is Nirvikara, Nirguna, Nishkriya, undefinable thing, ineffable. Here it is very much there. It is Vishishta. So he's saying it wants to, so it looks at its own Priyatama, beloved, Shakti, Maya. It becomes Maya Shakti. But first it is its Parashakti. It looks at its own Shakti. When it looks at that, then it becomes Bindu. It creates, it becomes resolute. And then the Shakti and the Siva tattvas, they connect. What is they saying? This Vishwa Sisiksha Vasataha Swardham. Swardham is that half of himself, that is that Shakti. Shaktim Biloka Brahma. When that Paramashiva, that Brahman looks at it, Bindu Bhavati Tam Indum Pravishati Shaktistu Rakta Bindutaya. So, the material envelope is provided to that pure consciousness now that which has to create. So you have these, you have Bindu and Visharga. Visharga is this whole Srishti. Bindu starts that Paramashiva Tattva. It becomes resolute. And then there is connectivity. This whole sansar happens. So whatever is Hakara Chaitanya Samanvita Bindu, right? That is what, when it happens, then it's called, and then this particular thing, that Mithuna, that couple of this Shiva and Shakti, is called Visharga. It creates, starts, this whole creation starts. And so you have Akara Chaitanyam, and then he's saying all the Varna Matrikas, because he started with this Matrika Chakra Sambodha. Slowly we are now entering into the details with more specificity. First, we need to understand these Varna Matrikas. Mantras are made with Varnas, and Varnas are out of Matrikas, and Matrikas are Sakyatmika and Shakti Shivatmika. Through mantra, we are returning to the Paramashiva Tattva. In a reverse way, we are going back. Therefore, first we have to understand these Varnas can be divided into two categories. One are Vijas and Yonis. Seeds, Yoni, causal energy. It's like you have semen and then you have ovum, then there's fertilization, there's a child. So you have Vija and Yoni. So Swaravarnas are called Vijatmika. Okay, these are Vijas. And then you have the Yoni or the Vyanjana Varnas. Together they create this whole sansara. Vija Yonyatmakad Vedat Dvidha Vijam Swaramataha. So Vija Yonyatmakad Vedat. Because of the difference between Vija and Yoni, two kinds of things are created. Vijam Swaramataha. So Vija Rupaka is all the alphabets which are vowels. Kadi Vishya Smrita Yonir Navadha Varga Vedataha. Kadi, Ka, starting with Ka. You have Kadi Vidya and Hadi Vidya in Tantra. So you have in Orissa, for example, and parts of Bengal, this Hadi, they say Hadi, beginning with her. So the Kadi Vidya is there and Hadi Vidya is there. Different kinds of tantras are there. And apparently in the Middle Ages, Assam, Bengal, Orissa, maybe even parts of South India, there was proliferation of these tantric schools and practices. So he's saying Kadi Vishya Smita Yonir Navadha Varga Vedata, and they are of 9 types. We'll going to them. We have discussed them briefly earlier. Then what he's saying is that Malini. So O, A, E, that is one way of talking about the alphabets, and there is a Malini Krama, which is different from the Varna Krama in Vyakarana. And there are different ways in which these alphabets are arranged. I had once mentioned. We'll go there again. So this Malini, that means set of these alphabets, they are Bhairavatmaka, and these are Shabdarasi, these are sets of alphabets. But remember that Shakti and Shiva are never different. That is what you have to remember. And therefore he's saying Shobhya and a Kyovaka. Shobhya means what? You're doing a sound. Then there is an effect. There is a Kshobhya and Kshobhaka, Vachya and a Vachaka. Vachaka is that word, Akshara, Varna, Pada, all that. And then What are you creating? That is Vachya. Whatever you are referring, that is Vachya. So Kshobhya and Kshobhaka. Therefore, he's saying, Savdarasi Saivukta. These Savdarasi that is mentioned, Matrika Sasakirtita. These Savdarasis are called Matrikas. Kshobhya Kshobhakata Vesana Malinitam Prachakshmahe. So that is referred to as Malini, this whole Varnamalas. Shobhya Kshobhagata Vesat. And this is, remember, this is the Parashakti in a way. So that is what he's saying. So this Malini Shakti is Anuttara and Prakasatmaka is Parashakti. So they would say that these are actually Ashtavargas, and the ninth Varga is the supreme energy which pervades all these 8 Vargas. So therefore they are mentioning about 9 Vargas. So there we have time. So Vija Yoni Samapatti Visargodaya Sundara. Vija Yoni Samapatti Visargodaya. Visarga Udaya. Sundara Malinihi Parasaktir Nirnita Vishwarupini. This is in Siva Sutra Vartika. He's saying that, this whole thing, that whatever is appearing, that is the Parasakti. So the Kriya Sakti of Parameshwar, you remember the 5 Shaktis of Parameshwar, right? We discussed in the first chapter. And what are they? You have Chit Shakti, you have Ananda Shakti, Jnana Shakti, then, Ichha Shakti, then Jnana Shakti, then Kriya Shakti. Between Ichha, Jnana, so we have done one sutra, Ichha Ruma Kumari. So Ichha is more powerful than Jnana Shakti, and Jnana Shakti is more powerful than Kriya Shakti. The supreme Shakti is Ichha Shakti. Ichha Shaktir Uma Kumari. That was the sutra. And Kumari Kridayam. She creates this whole thing. And before that, you have 2 more Shaktis, Chit Shakti and Ananda Shakti. These Pancha Shaktis of Lord Shiva, in the process of creation, there is a threshold beyond which the sukshma, the subtle, the pure, the elevating becomes putting you down, which pushes you down, because they have become panchakanchukas. They become covering energies. Same Paramashiva, remember. Same Paramashiva. It is like, let's imagine there are certain herbs people are using, like morphine. Okay? So for an opium addict, morphine is what? This for some kind of a sedative he's using. Same morphine is used to, is kind of administered to a patient who is going to undergo a major operation. Similarly, the same Paramashiva has the Shaktis which can be elevating, but suddenly beyond a certain threshold, when we are trapped in Maya, they become binding energies. They trap us, they trouble us. Then we cross that threshold, we do sadhana. That is all about this whole sadhana Shiva Shakti that we are doing. Once we cross that threshold and reunited with the divine, then the same Shakti starts elevating us. Same God is punishing us, same God is rewarding us. Same reality is a trap or a springboard for liberation. Depends on how we relate to it. Everything in that sense starts with our mind, within ourselves. Therefore, he's saying, so that is Kriya Shakti, and it's also Swabhasa Shakti, because Lord expresses himself through this Kriya Shakti. And then through this particular Paramatma Sattva, Paramatma Swarupa or Paramashiva, it gets into that meditative mode which manifests its reality. The word they use is Pratyavamarsha, a deep meditation. That is that Parashakti. And of this particular Parashakti, of their Kala Shamuha. You see, what is Kala? The Kriya Shakti of Lord Shiva. When it becomes a Kanchuga veiling power, it's called Kala. You become an expert in a particular field. It's a particular specialization. So the Kala Samuha are these Varnamatrakas. We are trapped at the level of reality in which we don't even have any understanding of what is the mystery behind the alphabets. But if we want to go to a higher level of spiritual ascension, then we have to go through the staircase. In the staircase, we have to deal with the signs of the Varna Matrikas. Swabhasa Matrika Gya Kriya Sakti Prabhu Para Tasyaha Kala Samuho Yaha Tat Chakram iti kirtitam. So Matrika Chakra, what is there? So what is Matrika and what is Chakra? He's mentioning. Swabhasa Matrika Gya. So that Pratyava Marsha, that is the Matrika. Kriya Sakti Prabhu Para. She is the Kriya Shakti of Paramashiva. Tasyaha, of that Matrika. Kala Shamuha. Yaha tat chakram iti kirtitam. This Kala Samuha is referred to at the circle. Matrika Chakra Sambodha. That is what he's saying. Matrika Chakra Sambodha. So what is Matrika? Is that Shiva Sakti Shivatmika Eva. So therefore, out of this Parama Shiva Tattva, you have this Sakti, and this Para Shakti has Kala Samuha. It has certain domains of energies and influences and manifestations. They are referred to as the Varna Matrika. They are these, Varna Samudaya, Matrika Chakra. That is what is referred to as Matrika Chakra. And then, these Matruka Varna, these Varna Matrukas are referred to as Mata, as Mother, as Shakti, as Devi, as Rasmi, and Kala. They are interchangeable words. When you say Kala Samuha, the moment you are looking at it, you remember this Chandi Patha, if you do, Durga Saptasati. When there is a fight, you have the Sumbha Nishambha. And Mother manifests herself out of herself, Kaumari, Vaishnavi. She creates so many energies. And they become fighters and they are going and attacking. And he's saying, this is not fair. You are trying to attack me. Okay, I'm a demon, I'm an adversary, but I'm just one person. And then you are coming and attacking me with 1,000 divine energies. Why are you taking help of them? Mother laughs. I am only one, my dear boy. My delusional power I have manifested as other different fighters, but I'm just one person. They are like my clones, and she withdraws all of them. He's saying, now let's, and you see in front of you who is standing. I'm just one person. Now let's fight. And then, of course, he terminates his ahankara, which means he kills him. So it's powerful ahankara, the Nimanic ahankara, Ashirik ahankara, he destroys. So that is that Chaitanya Shakti. And we have that demonic ahankara in all of us. That is why you read the Durga Saptasati for Bigna Nashana and for spiritual ascension. So that is what he's saying. That Varna Matrika is referred to as Mata, Sakti. So all these Varna Matrikas are different mothers of that same Parasakti. One Parasakti manifests as so many. Shakti, Devi, Rasmi, all that, and Kala. Akaradi Ksha Paryantaha, starting with the till Ksha, Kalasta Sabda Karanam. Any word you want to vocalize, you want to pronounce, you have to start with some kind of an alphabet. Mataraha Saktayo Devyo. They are referred to as mothers. They are referred to as Saktis. They are referred to as Devis. Rasmayasya Kalaha Smita. And they are also referred to as rays of energy, and they are referred to as Kalas. I think this is taken from Siva Sutra Vartika of Varadaraja. And therefore, every Varna is now is bursting with energy, right? It's a bundle of energy. What kind of energy? Divine energy. They're symbolic of that Matri Shakti. Now it's very frightening. We are using words every day. We don't even know. Whatever we say, whatever we think, we are doing that with the help of a language. And the language is made of alphabets. And these alphabets represent the mother energy, Shakti. How challenging is it? And then what is even tiring is that sometimes we use these Varna Matrikas, we create words to sometimes devalue the Matrika Shaktis in front of us, which is very sad. Just imagine how much course we are going to have. And then there are different people who have mentioned. So in, say, for example, there are a lot of digressions. So like, for example, in Sutta Samhita, there is some mention that you starting with A till Ksha. All these varnas are amritatmaka. They give you nectar. They're blissful. And they're saying that you have, starting with Muladhara till Sahasrara, and they're saying that, look, the energy, the pure energy, the blissful energy percolating out of it actually are manifesting as these varnas. I mean, there are different alternative ways of looking at it. Adharadi sat kamala daleshu. Adhara is Muladhara, starting with Muladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, and then you have these Vishuddha and Agya, and then Sahasrara. All these are saying Kamaleshu Patita Dwadasanta Stita Chandra Mandalat Srita Amrita Vindovo Akaradi Kharanta Varnatmana, starting with O till Kha. And these are Amrita Vindavaha. These are drops of nectar, all these letters, Parinitaha. And therefore, all this are kind of mentioned by different expert meditators and scholars and sadhakas, is how these varnamatrikas are not secular entities devoid of any spirituality. Any spirituality will not stand a second without the benefit of a proper understanding of language and these mantras and the varnas, because the science of mantras relies on varnas, and therefore we need to understand what do they represent. So this is kind of we are, what is otherwise profane and secular, we are seeing them as all spiritual. Everything is divine in a way and have powerful meaning behind them. So now let's make a little more some understanding about this Matrika Sakti. So when we're talking about Matrika Sakti and how this whole Sakti in this Srishti Krama happens, this whole meditation leads to this manifestation. So there are two aspects of it. One is Antarvimarshana and Bahirvimarshana. So you have something which is going on inside and that which manifests. So they are saying, if you look at this whole Anuttara, Antarvimarshena. So how does it happen? You have the Swaravarnas and you have starting with Ka till Ha. So Antarvimarshana and Bahirvimarshana. All that they are mentioning. And they are saying Bahirvimarshana starting with Ka till Ma. You see Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, Ga. Cha, Cha, Ja, Ja, Ya. Da, 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 Na. Da, Tha, Da, Da, Na. Pa, Fa, Ba, Ba, Ma. So starting with Ka till Ma. Okay, 25 alphabets. All these Kadi Manta Varna Samudaya, starting with Ka, Ka Adi Manta, Ma Anta Yasmin, Manta Varna Samudaya. So these are, and then you try to connect them with A, I, U, Ru, Ru, which is called Ak Varnaha. Ak Pratyahara in Vyakarana. A, I, U, Ru, Ruk. So A, I, U, Ru, Ru. If you combine them, these 5 varnas. So he's saying Varna Sannivesha, Ullasika, Chit Sakti, Ananda Sakti, Ichha Sakti, Jnana Sakti, and Kriya Sakti Rupa. So all these 5 energies. What are these? A, I, U, Ru, Ru. These are all simple alphabets. He's saying, no, you didn't even understand the secrets. O stands for Chit Sakti. E stands for Ananda Sakti. Okay? U stands for Ichha Sakti. That is Uma Kumari, you see. This is nothing for a chance. These are all signs behind it. And Ru is your Jnana Sakti and Ru is your Kriya Sakti. So these are the 5 Saktis. And then what? Out of these 5 Saktis, you have this whole thing. Whole set of words are created with these 25 Varnas and you have these Panchasaktis. And Every Shakti, for example, each Varna and everywhere you have these five energies: Chit Shakti, Ananda Shakti, and then Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti, and then become Panchakanchuga, And then he's saying, Yara Lava. Okay, Yara Lava, these are Antastha Varnas, semi vowels, Antastha Varnas, they are called Isada Vivrita. They don't touch anything. You don't open the mouth. These are called Yara Lava in phonetics. Isada Vivrita. So he's saying, so they are kind of represented as the Prathama Kala. So this whole thing now, what is called Chit Shakti, once it attains a veiling power because of the creation process starts, the Chit becomes Niyati, a limitation comes in there. Ananda becomes Kala. Ananda is limitless. Kala, there is a limitation of time introduced there. And similarly, Ichha will have become Raga, attachment. Ichha, anything you can do. Because of, then you don't do anything. You go to do wherever you have a sense of craving. You have an affinity. Similarly, Jnana, no, Vidya. Wherever you're an expert, you will do that. What you know, you will do it. And then you have ultimately Kriya Shakti, it becomes Kala. So the Chit Shakti, Ananda Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti become Niyati, and then Kala, and then Raga, and a Vidya, and a Kala. They get metamorphosed into these. And then we'll take it forward. It's getting a little boring, I understand that, because these are very technical details, and there is no story, there is no interesting thing to talk about, so it could be a little challenging, but I'll maybe flip through a few of them, but we are coming to an end of the timeline. We will try to complete this sutra tomorrow. So we'll stop here. Any doubts, any questions before we sort of stop this? Is there any questions you have?